happening, Chips? Welcome back to the Southie and DL Football Podcast. Today, as always, I'm joined by DL, and today
Hello.
we're joined by Andrew Dolan, a Celtic fan from
Hello.
Scotland.
Hello.
Right, DL, what we're going to be talking about today?
So today we're going to be talking about Brendan Rodgers' legacy at Celtic. Obviously, he left in quite upsetting circumstances for some of the Celtic fans. So we're going to be talking to a real 100% dyed-in-the-wool Celtic fan, Andrew Dolan, today, to see what he's got to say about it.
Welcome, Andrew, to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. You excited about this topic?
It's a topic that really divides all Celtic fans, I think, because some Celtic fans will just never forgive Rodgers for the way he left, regardless of how well he did and what he's just over 2.5 years, whereas other Celtic fans will say he had to go and try and take the payday, and we'll just look at the 7 trophies in a row that he brought Celtic, and we'll see him off with the best of wishes.
I think, obviously, fairly difficult for some Celtic fans to do that, given the manner in which he left. I mean, sneaking off to Leicester City, essentially, and then you hear all these stories of discontent coming out of the club about how Kieran Tierney and Scott Brown, players like that, wouldn't even say goodbye to him. So I think that goes to show just how sort of unexpected his leaving was. But it wasn't plain sailing up to the point where he left. I mean, people forget that. People think that was just glory up until he left, but really it was not, I wouldn't say breaking down, but the Rodgers revolution, so to speak, was certainly slowing down by the point that he left, I would say.
Most definitely. Anyway, we'll jump in our time machines right now, and we'll go back to 2016. I think I really want to start at where it all began, and it didn't really begin as such of Brendan Rodgers being appointed. It sort of began with that semi-final defeat to Rangers. We covered it in the last episode. If you haven't seen it, be sure and check it out. But we'll look back onto that game briefly. Obviously, it was the end for Ronnie Deila. Do you think he had to go, Dolan?
I just feel like there was no way for him to stay, because that was especially a Rangers team which were a full division below Celtic. Admittedly, I think they had almost secured the championship title at that point, but they were still a complete division below, and Celtic were incredibly poor, not just in that game, in the entire season. They only didn't manage to get the League Cup. They got completely outplayed by Rangers, in my opinion, for the full 120 minutes. So I just feel like there was no way that Deila could have stayed on and tried to stop Rangers coming up and trying to get their 55th title. Yeah,
so obviously it was announced the day after that Deila was stepping down at the end of the season. So as usual, when things like that happen, the speculation starts, who's going to get the job? I remember Steve Clarke, David Moyes, all these names getting linked with it. And Brendan Rodgers obviously was in that picture as well. Who did you originally think was going to get it?
I honestly thought it was going to be Roy Keane again, because I seem to remember there was quite a lot of noise, because apparently, especially when Roy Keane was first offered the job before Deila got it a couple of years previous to 2016, when Deila was apparently supposed to come in as Roy Keane's assistant, but Roy Keane didn't take the job. So there's quite a few whispers about him. I'll be honest, I didn't really see the Brendan Rodgers one coming at all.
No, I can't believe you. What about yourself, DL, at the time? Obviously, who did you think to get it?
I remember thinking, well, going back to the point about Ronnie Deila, I agree with Dolan. I do think it was time for him to leave, because not saying that he was a bad manager for Celtic, but I think it got past the point of no return with the fans, really. I think that the disquiet amongst the fans was really growing to a sort of fever pitch, and it did kind of have to go. But I remember hearing the stuff about David Moyes, and I thought, oh God, I don't know about that for an appointment. And I have to say that when Celtic appointed Brendan Rodgers, I was completely blown away, because there was a lot of scepticism surrounding him because of the way that his regime sort of ended at Liverpool. But I think if you look at that 2013-14 season, and we were discussing this in the last episode, I think that just goes to show how good a manager he actually is, and he worked wonders with Swansea as well, managing to get them up from the Championship too. So I think it was a really high calibre of manager that Celtic were getting, and I knew then that obviously Rangers were gunning for the 55th title, which in hindsight looks a bit laughable now, but I knew then that it was going to be going to be a tough ask for that because Celtic could really up their game with that appointment.
Yeah, most definitely. May 20th, the day that he signs his 12-month rolling contract, a day that lives long in the infamy of Celtic history. Him arriving, it was met by such applaud from the fans. I mean, I think the fans weren't expecting it either. I mean, the fact that the full main stand was sold out just to welcome him to the stadium.
Yeah, I feel like, well, the last time I can even remember a Celtic manager getting that kind of reception was when Martin O'Neill came, and that was going on the best part of 15 years. Previous was the last time I can remember an appointment, not even Strachan, who was arguably one of our best managers in the last 20 odd years, getting that kind of fanfare. So especially when Rodgers, who'd been out of the game for 2 years, was it, since he'd left Liverpool?
It wasn't. I don't think it was that long. I think it was just under a year actually.
Yeah,
just over a year at that point.
He got sacked after the Merseyside derby and then took a while out of football, but it was.
So it was just about a year or so. Yeah, it was just over a year actually. So when he left Liverpool to come into Celtic, especially, like, it was a very kind of mutually beneficial agreement looking back, because I don't feel like, especially the way Rodgers kind of, I want to say bombed out, but that's not the correct phrase. At Liverpool, like, his Liverpool team went from nearly winning the title, should have won the title, to not even sure where they ended up. They decided to get rid of him. Was it a defeat in the Merseyside derby?
It was a 1-0 draw.
It was a 1-0 draw, but I think it had been going on for long before that. Like they struggled to get the Champions League group the previous season. They lost obviously that 6-1 defeat to Stoke City on the last.
Oh yes, I remember that in Gerrard's last game, and it was a
I was damaging. I mean, being 5-0 down to Stoke City at half time for a club like Liverpool just really isn't.
I remember the quote from Ryan Shawcross and said when all the Stoke players went at half time and they were 4 or 5-0 up, that they all just started laughing because they were so used.
It was unbelievable. Obviously, if you're a stupid wee rugby club like Stoke, you don't really expect to be 5-time European champions Liverpool.
Yeah, like that wasn't even that poor a Liverpool team, especially to go 5-0 down to a team like Stoke.
It had players in it that Jurgen Klopp would use to great effect later on,
Yeah.
And then that summer, Rodgers brought Firmino in as well. I think that's often overlooked.
So, like, it seemed a perfect fit for Celtic. I mean, he was a Celtic fan. He spoke about his relationship with Tommy Burns and his admiration for him and everything. It seemed that they'd got the right man, and then the first Champions League qualifier away at Gibraltar's finest, Lincoln Red Imps.
Remember, I had a little look at the starting 11 for Rodgers' first game for Lincoln Red Imps, and it wasn't too dissimilar to the team that he used in the Invincible season. So the starting 11 was Craig Gordon in goal, who was an effective mainstay for Rodgers until kind of towards the end, when he was replaced with Scott Bain and for a small extent Dawes DeVries, but that was only a few weeks if that. He replaced Gordon with. Yeah. Then right back goes, I can never pronounce his name, Sadi Yanko. A butcher of pronunciation, who was fairly used but was normally replaced by Lustig for most of that season. Then the centre-half pairing was Effie started that game, and I think that was one of the last times we could see Effie Ambrose in a Celtic shirt under Rodgers. That was one of the major changes that he brought.
His reign of terror was over.
And then the left half of defence with Eric Stiachenko and Tierney, that was the left half of defence for the entire first season under Rodgers. And then in the midfield, it was a kind of a strange formation when I looked it up. So it appeared to be a 4-man midfield of Beaton, Brown, Christie and Rogic. All four.
No wingers.
No wingers. Yeah, Christie wasn't much of a player, but the other three played fairly a lot under Rodgers. Then up front was 40 goals from the previous season, Lee Griffiths, and the new signing of Moussa Dembele for the first game. And that ended in a 1-0 defeat to Lincoln Red Imps, which was an embarrassment for Celtic and not the way Rodgers would have wanted to start, I don't think.
Yeah, it was one of those. I remember it was you, DL, who told me the result. We were out doing something, I can't even remember what, and you just went...
I think we were in Calder Forest, but I think it was expected to be like an absolute fucking steamroller, and like it wasn't even expected to be like a small margin of victory for Celtic. It was expected to be like
Yeah.
Come on, some like Diddy team playing on bloody AstroTurf over in Gibraltar, like this is going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. But it really just didn't turn out that way for Celtic, and I think it's especially surprising that result when you look at what happened after in the treble, the Invincible treble, and so on. And I think for like Rangers fans, that was sort of ammunition. That was like, oh, Rodgers revolution, fucking totally overhyped.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think
didn't turn out that way.
I think that same week, and maybe in and around that time, Rangers signed Joey Barton, which was a huge signing for them.
Yeah,
and Celtic are getting beat off.
Nico Cranchan and stuff.
Yeah, and Celtic are getting beat off Plumbers from Gibraltar. So obviously it was quite an exciting time for that week for the Rangers fans. But Celtic obviously turned it around with 3 goals at Celtic Park, and it was very comfortable. Moving on to the next qualifier against Astana, a nervy game, but one again. Rodgers' team seemed to get through it, and this is when they started bringing in players like Kolo Toure.
Yeah, so I decided to have a wee look and just kind of pick out some of the main transfers that Rodgers made. So the kind of biggest, well, arguably the biggest transfer made in his first season was bringing in Scott Sinclair, which he ended up with multiple awards in that season and 25 goals, and it was the PFA Player of the Year award. He also signed guys like Moussa Dembele for, I think it was like 500,000, I think the compensation ended up being. But he also brought in, kind of to a lesser extent, Doris De Vries, Gamboa and Kolo Toure, which I think if you ask most fans, you probably get quite a split on the opinion towards those 3.
Yeah,
I think Kolo Toure was a good character to sort of have around the place, even though he was definitely coming to the end of his career. I think he was a real, like, obviously he went invincible with Arsenal. Like, I believe he'd won the league title with Manchester City, so
he was a winner.
It's a good character to have in the dressing room. And obviously after he retired, he went on to be an assistant coach at Celtic. So I would say he would be a good acquisition.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Rodgers' style of football really, for me, when it was first shown how good this Celtic team was the qualifier against Hapoel Beersheva, which was in the playoff round to get to the Champions League, and it was a home game. And although they did concede 2 goals, they absolutely wiped the floor with that team, and it was billed as a very difficult game. And at home, they honestly they destroyed them that night.
Yeah, I do remember that was the 5-2 game, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Beersheva. Yeah, it was just. Celtic went 3-0 up in that game, and then Beersheva got 2 goals in the space of just about 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Which threatened to completely turn the game on its head. But I feel like that was when they first really showed Rodgers' philosophy, because it was an incredibly attacking system that Celtic used, but they also left themselves incredibly open at the back, which I feel was a real factor of any time Brendan Rodgers' Celtic team played.
Most definitely. It was one of those situations where Rodgers you didn't know until the season started how it was going to go.
Yeah.
We were all a little bit sceptical about it. I mean, even a lot of the Rangers fans cheered at his appointment, thinking that because he hadn't really won anything at Liverpool, he couldn't win anything at Celtic as well.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of, I wouldn't want to say optimism, but a lot of the Rangers fans looked at the way that his Liverpool team bottled the title.
Yeah.
And thought, right, so Celtic have got rid of a manager in Roy Dyer who couldn't get them over the line. And then they're now just getting a more expensive manager in who hasn't actually been proven to get anything over the line, especially that first Old Firm, the 5-1 at Parkhead. I feel like a lot of the Rangers players and fans went into that expecting another victory, at least a draw.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Dia, what did you think going into that first Old Firm game of the season? I mean, that's the test of Celtic and Rangers managers, is the Old Firm game.
Yeah, obviously. I would say the optimism was kind of waning in the Rangers camp by that point. Obviously, Celtic, I think in the opening game of the season, they beat Hearts. And Scott Sinclair scored a last-minute winner, so that just kind of showed the spirit of the Celtic team, that they wouldn't lie down and they wouldn't play up to this media expectation that Rodgers is a fraud or whatever, and he's never won anything, and they were out to prove people wrong. They certainly proved a lot of people wrong that day. I mean, on the 5-1 day, I have to say, I did sort of half expect Rangers to lose, but I never expected it to be that margin. But obviously, like you say, when you look back on that game, it isn't as much of a demolition as it's often made out to be. Like Rangers,
No, most certainly not. Actually,
they were to an extent. Rangers were in the game. It even went 2-1 at one point, but it just showed like how canny Rodgers had been in the transfer market and bringing players like Dembele in, who scores a hat trick in his first ever Old Firm.
Well, yeah, you have to think about that day is when Lee Griffiths was he ruled out for injury or suspension? I can't 100%
It's an injury.
And everyone thought that was going to be decisive and that was going to spell the end for Celtic. But
yeah, because Dembele had scored that penalty at home to Astana to send Celtic through. But I don't think anyone expected him to be anywhere near as good as Lee Griffiths. Everyone thought he was going to be quite a big downgrade, especially on an Old Firm day after Griffiths coming off the back of a 40-goal season, and he ran rings around the Rangers defence and ended up with Philip Sendros getting a red card. I think was kind of a summary of Rangers' day.
Just justifiedly, really, because he went. I'm not really sure what he was attempting. Whether it was a header or he was trying to chase it, but he sort of went up and his arm was flailing, and it just
it was one of those ones where Andy Walker on commentary just went, "Sometimes players bemuse me," and that's all he said about it. And I was it was one of those sort of defining moments of that season where you just knew that Rangers don't really have the bottle for this. They don't have the credentials, because they're doing in the biggest game of the season so far. They're conspiring to do things like that, and just really did not reflect well on the club as a whole. And it just went to show that Rangers have been a bit overzealous in thinking, oh yeah, we're going to come in and it'll be no bother, and that Celtic weren't going to let that happen. And the 5-1 game was really I would say the beginning of the downfall of Mark Warburton's regime as well, although we discussed that in the last episode too. Yeah, moving on from that game, obviously one thing Rodgers did do was bring back Champions League football, which had been missing for 2 seasons under Ronny Deila. Drawing a good way, Barcelona, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, and Borussia Mönchengladbach. First games against Barca at the Nou Camp. I mean, you can't really have much more difficult games. Your first game in the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was off the back of the Old Firm 5-1, if I remember correctly. So I don't know. I feel like that's a very kind of energy-sapping game at an Old Firm, and then 2 or 3 days later to try and go to the Nou Camp, and it just showed the complete gulf in class between teams like Barcelona and any team from the Scottish League that game.
I still maintain that Celtic set up wrong that night. And it was a kind of the Achilles of Rodgers, as he didn't change his style of football to suit opponents.
Yeah, I think because obviously they were riding high on confidence from having just absolutely obliterated the Old Firm at the weekend. So now they thought, oh yeah, well we can sort of keep that up. And obviously if you go to a place like the Nou Camp or any of these other big European arenas like the Allianz or the Bernabeu or whatever, you can't, if you're a team like Celtic with a tiny percentage of the budget of these massive teams, you can't go and play like open, expansive football. Like, it's all very well and good when you're doing that in front of 60,000 of your own fans against like Hamilton Accies, but when you're playing a team of the calibre of Barcelona, I think it was fairly naive of Rodgers to play such an open, expansive game. And it took him a while to learn that, because the Champions League was always a sort of stumbling point for him throughout his reign, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah, I do remember him. The only time I've seen, especially in that first season with the open, expansive football worked really well, was the 3-3 draw with Manchester City at home.
Yeah, definitely.
Because, as David was saying, it was helped with the fact there was 60,000 backing them at home. And you have to admit, some of the Man City players looked a little bit kind of shell-shocked. I can't say that word very well. Especially when Dembele scored a slightly controversial goal. People wonder if it was offside or not in the first 10 minutes or so. I feel like that helped Celtic quite a lot in that game.
You notice this straight away, to be fair. See, when they play the Champions League music and they pan across the players, the Manchester City players look terrified that night.
Well, I feel like a lot of those players may have not played. Because I always get this idea drummed up that Celtic Park, especially on European night, is such a hostile atmosphere to visiting players. And if you've not played in an incredibly hostile atmosphere, such as Celtic Park in the Champions League night, that can be quite intimidating for players, I would say.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, that night will live long in the memory for a lot of Celtic fans. I mean, it was a fantastic night. DL, what was your thoughts on Celtic's Champions League campaign that season?
Well, I was obviously when the group got drawn, people were saying the famous term "group of death" was being bandied around, and it certainly did look that way, because what people would say in inverted commas the easiest team were Mönchengladbach, but they were no mugs by any means. They'd done exceptionally well in a very good Bundesliga with Pep's Bayern Munich and teams like that. So I don't think they were anything to shrug their shoulders at. But I think obviously they were. There's only so much you can do against a team like Barcelona, and Celtic have beat Barcelona in the past a couple of times in this century even. But those are kind of exceptions. They aren't the rule more so. So most of the time when Celtic are playing teams like that, they are really up against it. And I think in the games against Man City, they did give a very good account of themselves. They might have been a wee bit disappointed with how they performed against Mönchengladbach, but overall, I think on most accounts they performed admirably under very straining circumstances in that group.
Yeah, I do believe in that group that it just came down to a couple of key individual moments rather than anything else. It came down to the home game against Gladbach when Toure made his two kind of individual mistakes in a 2-0 defeat, which put the ball quite firmly in Gladbach's court to try and get third position. And then away from home, the one each draw in the last few minutes when Cal McGregor had that good chance and kind of scuffed the ball wide. I feel like that was kind of the two moments that defined that season rather than anything Rodgers did or anything else in that system, to be honest.
However, a lot of Celtic fans, even though we didn't get European football after Christmas, consider that Rodgers' best European campaign.
I don't know about that. I mean, obviously, because the next year they actually managed to get a win in Europe. Was it 3-0 against Anderlecht?
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah, and that was a very convincing win. And obviously, one good game doesn't make a good campaign overall. But I would say that they built on maybe some of the experiences they had that season, had a better campaign then, and then the season. Well, they actually managed to get to the round of 32 in the Europa League. Christmas Europe after Christmas, which is what all fans of Celtic want.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the league, Celtic are riding high. They win at Ibrox in the year derby, which puts them 19 points clear with a game in hand going into the winter break. I mean, it was it was unbelievable. I think Celtic fans didn't know how good they'd got it at that point.
Yeah, I can only remember Celtic actually having one draw in that entire period up till New Year away at Inverness.
I
think it was the first couple of weeks of the season. Then they won every single game through to New Year, including first trophy under Rodgers against Aberdeen
in the
League Cup final at just the start of December time.
Yeah, so, again, that game was just another example of how far Celtic were ahead. Because they absolutely destroyed Aberdeen that day, 3-0.
Yeah, especially since Aberdeen had been running Celtic very close to the title in the last couple of seasons under Ronnie Dyler, and then it wasn't even a contest.
No, definitely not.
Cup final.
The January transfer window, Celtic didn't really do much. They brought in Eboué Kouassi that transfer window, didn't they?
Yeah.
He's only just left in the last couple of days, is he not?
Yeah, he's only just left there for Genk. I mean,
that doesn't really tell the whole story. I mean, obviously you would think, he's managed to stay at Celtic for 3+ years, but really,
I think it means about 3.
I would struggle to name 5 times they actually played for Celtic.
I think I could only count 3 occasions where they played. It was Zenit, home and away. I think I'm sure he played a game at Tynecastle, but I don't remember him playing much apart from that.
The thing was, Rodgers did bring in a lot of great players to Celtic, but he was prone to a few sort of baffling decisions. Like the Marvin Comper thing is something which has gone down legend among Celtic fans, because there was a lot of sort of hype. Well, I wouldn't say hype, but there was There was a degree of excitement for when he came through, but then he never played. He never played. I think
he played one game against Morton.
I think it was about 45 minutes he got combined, and it was just baffling.
Yeah, the Marvin Compton, I do remember him coming in and at his unveiling saying a lot of the kind of generic phrases that you have to say
the
if you're
big club
unveiling.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 83 minutes he played against Morton, and I'm sure he got subbed and then was never to be seen again.
At least he did. At least he did do what Pedro did when he came in at Rangers and just start saying all these spreadsheet facts. Aye.
I know. That was even worse. The thing about 55 titles and that. Like some people like lap that stuff up and think, "Oh, that's brilliant." He really gets the club like a fucking 5 minutes on Wikipedia. And
you can really get the club. Not much more to say about that season apart from Celtic go invincible, which was truly an unbelievable achievement.
Yeah, especially with Mr. Dembele, who scored 32 goals that season, I believe, in all competitions. Although he got injured in about April time,
and then it was in
missed
the
the last
semi-final
chunk of the season. Yeah, so that was just a pretty incredible season by all standards. An invincible treble, especially summed up by Celtic's fighting spirit against Aberdeen in the final, showing Tom Rogic in the last-minute winner.
Yeah, I'd want to give credit to Aberdeen, to be fair, because that final, like, they were brilliant. They were honestly outstanding, that final.
They were very, especially the last about half an hour or so, where they just dug incredibly deep in almost a trench-like defence on their 18-yard box.
They were fantastic.
Celtic nowhere near. And then they could have won that final very easily. They had a good chance. So Cal McGregor, a very weak pass back.
Yeah.
And they had a 2-on-1.
Yeah, that was Johnny Hayes missed it and then signed for Celtic that summer.
Yeah. I remember Johnny Hayes, the goal he scored in that final was an absolute excellent volley from the corner to put Aberdeen 1-0 up.
Yeah, but obviously last minute Tom Rogic winner and Celtic are treble winners. I want to ask you, at that point, obviously how bad Rangers had been and how good Celtic had been, what did you think the gap was? How many years did you think it would take for Rangers to really catch up?
It's hard to quantify a thing like that because obviously a lot can change in football even over the course of like a month, you know.
Yeah.
If you look at, I always look at Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham as a good example. He guided Spurs to their first ever Champions League final in May, and by October he was sacked. So it just goes to show how quickly things can change in football. But there was a feeling that wouldn't be the case at Celtic. It felt as though Brendan Rodgers was always building something of a dynasty there, and it was just going to go on and go on and go on. Obviously, at that point, I think that was Celtic's 6th title in a row, and a 10 in a row isn't obviously as much of an immediate danger to Rangers as it is now.
Yeah.
But it did feel at that point like Rangers need to get their act together. They need to bring in the right man, and obviously that summer Pedro was at the club.
He was set back another year.
I know. I think honestly, I said it in the previous episode. Pedro brought in Ryan Jack and Morelos, which on its own is an excellent contribution, but in so many other metrics, he set back the club. Miles. Like the training regime and all the players were just totally sapped of energy because I think he gave them something like 9 days off during the summer. And it wasn't a good attitude that Pedro was breeding, and obviously they needed to bleed that out the club, and that's kind of going on with Steven Gerrard just now. But I think before lockdown happened, there was a fair amount of negativity.
That summer for Celtic, I thought was fantastic because they didn't lose anyone.
Yeah,
during the Invincible season, they didn't lose anyone.
Yeah, I had a little look at their signings, and a kind of key 4 signings that they made. So they signed Oliver Ntcham from Manchester City for
top player,
about $4 million, which was a fairly big outlay, but it seems a kind of steal when you see what he can do nowadays. They also got Patrick Roberts back for another loan, which at the time seemed a good investment. Then they signed Odsonne Edouard as well on a loan, which has turned out to be a great signing. And the last one I kind of pinpointed was Johnny Hayes from Aberdeen, because he was the only non-Celtic player from the season before to have been nominated for Player of the Year, which I thought was a great signing as well, although his age was a little bit, but still a great player. And didn't really lose anyone big. Like Effie Ambrose went to Hibs, Sviatchenko went back to probably butcher this pronunciation as well.
Midtjylland. Yeah.
Yeah. And Kolo Toure retired. That was all the kind of big things that changed.
I always felt it was a mistake letting Sviatchenko go. I think you would agree with that one as well, DL. I think you rated him highly.
Oh no, I did that. I really admired him as a player. I thought well, him and Simunovic were deployed as a sort of duo fairly regularly. Am I wrong? I mean, yeah.
No, definitely at the start.
Up until the new year, Old Firm, and then Sviatchenko got kind of phased out the squad for the return of Boyata at that point, and then didn't play much in the second half of the season, from my memories.
Yeah, I thought, and during that run, they were a very solid partnership, and obviously, I think letting him go, I wouldn't say it was a mistake, obviously, because the defence didn't suffer massively considering the one trebles 2 years following that. But I think he was definitely, if not a starter, he was a very good squad player.
Yeah, he wasn't the best defender in my opinion, but I feel like he was fairly solid. I think Celtic had defenders such as Boyata, and some people would argue Ayer to an extent, were okay defenders, but they all have a mistake in them. I don't feel like Sviatchenko had that. He was a limited defender, but he was never that much of a bomb scare, I didn't think.
Yeah, it was just he was consistent, like you knew what you were getting with him almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just really short for a centre half. That was the one thing.
Yeah, but he did have a good aerial threat, like.
Yeah.
Obviously, did they not score a header against Rangers in the,
he did.
In the fateful semi-final?
Yeah,
but remember he was tight. Remember people thought that was Scott Brown. I say Scott Brown has been quote-unquote done many times. In that semi-final, the 2-2 game, people thought Scott Brown was done, and I saw lots of people touting Sviatchenko to be future Celtic captain, and within almost 6 months he was
gone.
Out the picture. Yeah.
I know it was a weird one with Sviatchenko. He's obviously doing well with Midtjylland now, so all the best to him, I suppose. That season, obviously, they bring in these new players. They don't lose anyone, and you're thinking probably more of the same. I mean, you would probably think more of the same as well. But Celtic for this season really didn't get out of second gear for most of it. Yeah,
it's very odd to look at a season where you won another treble and think that season wasn't even us getting out of second gear.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of times, especially, there's a lot of kind of drop-off in form, specifically the previous PFA Player of the Year, Scott Sinclair, who, although was top goal scorer of 18 goals that season for Celtic, I feel like it's universally agreed that he was not anywhere near where he was in the previous season, and towards the second half was getting replaced by Carl McGregor to play out of position at left midfield.
Yeah, it was an odd one that, like, it was almost as if Sinclair just lost his confidence, which was a bit weird because he was taking on players and everything, looked very exciting in his first season. Second season, he was almost reined in. Yeah,
a lot of times in the second season, I feel like clubs started to double up on him.
Yeah.
Which he then started to find quite difficult. So instead of beating his man and going in and goal or having a cross, he would just cut back. He'd see two guys, think, I'm not going to get past him here, and then just cut and play a pass, which really affected a lot of Celtic's kind of productivity that year.
Yeah, most definitely. There was a sort of miniature title race after Christmas.
Emphasis on miniature, aye.
It wasn't miniature, it lasted for a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks, aye. If that, to be honest, I think, I don't know, the belief sort of started breeding itself again kind of March time when Rangers went on an unbelievable run. And then obviously that 3-2 game at Ibrox was the defining moment. We talked about that last week as well. But I think that was because Celtic were always like the high benchmark. The Rangers always were fighting a losing battle, it felt. And, you know, I think Rangers needed to be at their very, very best, but I think heads just dropped after every loss that season for Rangers.
Yeah. I feel like that 3-2 game in March is one game where Rodgers probably should get quite a lot of credit for tactical adaptability, especially when Yozo got sent off for the elbow on Morelos. Like, most managers probably went like 4-4-1. Let's just like park the bus, play it out for a draw. Whereas he sacrificed one of his more defensive-minded players to bring on Odsonne Edouard, which at the time I think few people would think would be a logical solution, and he went a 4-3-2 with Odsonne Edouard and Mr. Dembele up front, and those two combined to make the winner, which I don't think most people would have thought would be the formation he'll be going for.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, Celtic as well that season got into the Champions League again, which was another great achievement, this time in a group with Anderlecht, PSG and Bayern Munich. And once again, they suffer heavy defeats to PSG and away at Bayern Munich as well.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, obviously, I think they only lost 3-0. Well, I say only, but they lost 3-0 away to Bayern Munich. But I think, obviously, Celtic's luck of the draw in those 2 seasons that they were in the Champions League was just not great at all. Really, it just it was so unforgiving. Obviously, having people. Obviously, a very famous moment. They took the lead at the Parc des Princes against PSG, and they thought, right, okay, here we go. This is going to be one of those famous European nights that Celtic had so many of. But obviously, the tides just turned again, and it was 7-1. And I think that showed the naivety of Rodgers in Europe again.
Yeah, but I do remember a key point in that game where Rodgers ended up going to a back three away at the Parc des Princes.
Obviously, when you look at that now, it's like, what was he thinking?
Yeah, but I feel like Rodgers' mindset a lot of times, especially when he played bigger teams, is we are probably going to concede at least 1 or 2. So what's the point of sitting in if we're going to get beat 2-0? I feel like Rodgers would rather get beat 4-1, 5-1, as long as he knows he's went out and tried to attack a team. And then maybe try and score rather than park the bus for 90 minutes. I don't know what the Celtic fans would prefer to see. Obviously, they never want to see their team losing in Europe, but I think these humiliations, those were the only kind of things keeping Rangers going at that moment. With Celtic having these humiliations in Europe, but I actually think the performance they put in at Celtic Park against PSG was worse than the one they put in against the Parc des Princes. I wouldn't even agree with that. I would just say that they were just, from number 1 to number 11, they were just outclassed.
Obviously, PSG are an absolutely amazing team, but at the Parc des Princes, there was a sort of flurry of goals, and there was a couple of incredible strikes. The Dani Alves one sticks out.
Yeah, that was some goal.
But when I think of that performance at Celtic Park, and I watched it in a Scottish bar when I was on holiday in Italy, and I just thought, I never thought even for 1 second of that game that Celtic had even a chance here, and that was under the lights at Celtic Park.
Yeah.
Which is meant to be an atmosphere that knocks the confidence of other players, and I just think that PSG totally weren't fazed by that, and obviously players like Neymar absolutely ran up basically.
I do feel like a lot of Celtic fans, when you're getting Champions League, you have to realistically look at it and be like, whoever's first and second seed are going to be super powers, like they're going to be like a PSG or a Bayern or a Real Madrid. You have to look at whoever's third in that group and be, can we fight them for a third place slot? Which I feel like Rodgers did.
Anderlecht were very, very gettable, and obviously that it showed in the fact that they managed to get through and get into the Europa League that season.
Definitely.
So I feel like you could argue to an extent that the second season Europe was better. Celtic got more points, or maybe the same amount of points in the second season, and that actually got in a third place finish rather than finishing bottom of the group as they did in the first season.
Anderlecht were a much, much more gettable opponent than Mönchengladbach.
Yeah, Mönchengladbach are a great team, and the fact that Celtic went to Gladbach and got a draw and could have won that game shouldn't be overshadowed. But like Anderlecht, the fact that they managed to beat Anderlecht away as well in such a convincing fashion.
I remember Griffith's goal in that game, and that was just liquid football really leading up to that. And that sort of just showed like Rodgers' philosophy in a nutshell. Basically, they weren't going to be, or at least they thought they weren't going to be bullied by these European teams.
The home game was less productive against Anderlecht, but less said about that, the better.
That was quite a disappointment.
The home game was a really interesting game, I thought, because Anderlecht had to come to Parkhead and win 3-0 or better to go through, and Celtic played that game, I felt like they were trying not to suffer a heavy defeat. Didn't really play to win. They played quite conservatively, which is really unlike Rodgers, and they played to, it was a 1-0 defeat in the end, or 1 or 2-0 defeat,
I think it was just because Rodgers felt the sort of weight of expectation, because obviously they were conquering all comers in the domestic front, but he thought, right, if I'm going to get over the line here, and if I'm going to make myself like a proper Celtic legend, I need to at least have a good go of it in Europe. And obviously the Zenit game after that was majorly disappointing for Celtic.
Yeah, also dropping in the Europa League to play Zenit, I personally didn't think they were going to go through against them.
I don't know. I feel like, especially like, unless Celtic are playing a superpower in Europe, I always have, as I'm sure most Celtic fans would, a very slight optimism that if we can get a team at Parkhead and we're within maybe 1 or 2 goals on the tie, that there's a good chance.
Yeah, most definitely. They were. I just felt like Zenit. I mean, they were just such a big club, and they'd spent money. And I just felt the gulf in class was going to separate it. It did show in the second leg.
The Branislav Ivanovic header is the one that just sticks out for me. Because it just seemed so easy. Like the ball came flying in, and obviously Ivanovic, everybody knows him from his time at Chelsea. He's Champions League winner, Europa League winner, multiple Premier League winner. He's even though he's a defender, like he could pose a real danger. A player of that sort of caliber,
he definitely did.
At a set piece in that header, he just went totally unchallenged for it.
He was outstanding in that second leg. He missed the first leg, and he was a big loss for Zenit in the first leg. And you really noticed it when he came back into the side.
Yeah, obviously, when a player of that class comes back in, it's noticeable.
Yeah, and he was excellent.
That try I thought was very interesting, just especially because of the home leg. Celtic dominated Zenit, and only come out for one. I say only, but to come out for 1-0 victory, Celtic, I feel in most people's opinions, probably should have won that game far more convincingly and had a bigger lead to take to Russia.
Yeah, definitely. Abukasi had the game of his life that night.
Yeah, Charlie Masonda, one of his only contributions in a Celtic shirt.
Yeah,
I forgot about him as well.
Jeez, he came in the January.
He got given the number 67, did he not?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was another player that came in and all the generic quotes under the sun. Lip tight about Celtic.
Yeah, he was the standard lip service to the Lisbon Lions, and that stuff just really gets under my skin.
He was literally the most opposite player of the player who wore that shirt before Victor Wanyama, because Victor Wanyama was big, strong, powerful. Masonda was small, weak. And
I know.
It was just like...
he was just another example of Rodgers at times kind of scattergun recruitment policy. Like these players that they had a certain degree of credentials, but just came up to Scotland that looked like they couldn't be bothered, basically.
Definitely.
And if they could be bothered, they were invisible.
Yeah, Charlie Masonda. I feel like he's one of those players that undoubtedly had talent, but talent isn't something that gets you. As much as people say Scotland's football is a pub league, I remember him playing one more game away at Kilmarnock, Steve Clark's Kilmarnock, and just getting kicked up and down the park in a 1-0 defeat.
Yusuf Malumbu ate him that day.
Yeah.
And a play that Celtic managed to capture after that.
Yeah. That season obviously ends up with another treble, victories in both cup finals over Motherwell. Motherwell that season obviously were the Bully boys. I mean, I'm pretty sure, right, like I said in the last episode, Ryan Bowman and Louis Moult put about 80% of Scottish centre-halves in hospital.
I know, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the flying elbows were all over the place that season.
But it did work for them. They got to 2 cup finals.
Yeah, I suppose, but their elbows were on the back cover of the Daily Record most
most weekends,
really.
Yeah. Well, remember, what semi-final was it? Was it the League Cup or Scottish Cup semi-final against Rangers? Where
that was the League. The League Cup semi-final.
That was the League Cup semi-final.
Because that was Pedro's penultimate game, and I just remember it was like, obviously I've used the term rugby team twice in this podcast actually, but it was a very rugby-like performance. But fair play to Motherwell. I mean, they pushed the rules to the very limits, and it did work. It did work to a certain extent. And Fabio Cardozo obviously got his nose broken, but that was just a dreadful game of football. But it just showed the spirit of that Motherwell team. That they weren't going to lie
Stephen
down.
Robinson needs a lot of credit for that.
You know, and they were going to go in and they were going to give a big old physical performance, and it's just a shame that they couldn't give a better account of themselves in the two cup finals they played against Celtic.
Well, I do remember the Scottish Cup final, Celtic scoring very early with both goals, and then just not giving Motherwell a sight.
They just didn't do anything.
It just didn't feel, especially in that final, that Motherwell had much of a chance, really. And that was the way it was with Rodgers Celtic. Sometimes if you got them on a run, it felt as though, you know, there's just no way that we can even get near them, but domestically speaking.
Yeah, I do remember quite a lot of times, especially in Rodgers' second season to an extent, in the third, you would see games where Celtic, you could tell in the first 10 minutes it could be like a 0-0 draw. Celtic would just went up for it. And then other games, they would just walk through a team with it. Like, it's like someone hit an accelerator. That was it. They would fire through a team with several goals, not let the other team have a chance.
Obviously, I have to mention the game against Hearts, which ended the famous unbeaten run.
Unbeaten
I
run.
think it was 69 games that it got up to.
The 4-0 defeat at Tynecastle. Big Kyle Lafferty scoring.
Yeah, that was one that I do feel like this is slightly diverting the conversation, but the fact that Rodgers made Celtic have a big team talk out on the pitch in front of the fans was a bit of Rodgers' showmanship rather than anything else. I feel like Rodgers this entire time when he was up in Scotland was trying to sell himself back down south. Stuff like that was getting the attention of the media up here and down south.
I feel like there was a lot of kind of... Like you say, there was a lot of attention grabbing stuff like that. Like I remember that he had his own like a sort of autobiographical talk thing at the SEC.
I forgot about that.
The Rodgers show,
he sold tickets for it, and basically it was 90 minutes of what's he called again?
Eamon Holmes.
Holmes. It was basically 90 minutes of Eamon Holmes sitting down with Brendan Rodgers and saying, "Oh, Brendan, you're fantastic, and tell us how you're so brilliant." So basically, it was just a big advert for Brendan Rodgers that people paid.
It was like an only the excuse sketch. That's the best way to describe it.
It was the equivalent. Remember the year before, or maybe that year, the Mark Warburton only excuse sketch, where it was literally that, but a serious thing that Brendan Rodgers did.
Yeah, I mean that was obviously when Mark Warburton was the golden boy, and I think Rodgers was the golden boy for a long time, and it only started to sort of wane towards the end of his finals.
It started to change.
Final half season even.
It was such a great public speaker. Like even like press conferences, if someone like tried to trip up for a question, he would just talk his way through it so smoothly.
Yeah,
and just diffuse a situation.
It was so charismatic. Like I feel like even when like people were. Even the Scottish media, who are like notoriously hard taskmasters, like if they don't like you, the writing is basically on the wall for you. Like you look at managers that Celtic had in the past, like they weren't too fond of Ronnie Dyla, I don't think, because he kept making all these slap ups, and it's generally foreign managers that get it. I'm not implying.
Well, I do remember the Scottish media absolutely muddling Alesso at Kilmarnock due to his quote unquote poor grasp of English, which I thought was incredibly ironic, because I doubt many journalists can speak fluent Italian.
Exactly. It was the same exact treatment that people like Paul Le Guen got at Rangers as well. It's just obviously we're not trying to say that Scottish media are racist or anything like that.
Yeah, this is a very small minority that I'm.
Yeah, I do feel like but when there's foreign managers, they are a bit less sort of.
There has to be a whipping boy in Scottish football.
Yeah, pretty much at all times.
And admittedly, Scottish football is so like territorial that regardless what newspaper it is, they'll be spun as anti-Celtic or anti-Rangers somehow, depending on even what journalist writes the article.
Yeah, exactly. Like for a long time, Rangers were sort of absolved of any of these criticisms, because obviously David Murray was great pals with people in the media and so forth. But I think Rodgers sort of he was almost untouchable with the media, like you say, Andrew, because he was so charismatic, and he was able to just kind of just diffuse the situations, like you said, and that was a great skill of his. And I think he knew how valuable that was, especially after heavy defeats like that. How valuable his speaking skills were.
It would always come out, even after like a heavy European defeat, and like someone would come out and be like, "Well, you got beat like 7-1 to Parc des Princes." are you going to like criticise your players and you come out and like absolve the players of any responsibility? Say, oh, this is my tactics. I'll have a think about it, etc. And say everything that if you're a player sitting there, you'd be like, that's what I want to hear from a manager, and it would never say anything which would get like a negative headline in the paper at any cost.
And it seemed as if the relationship he had with the players was absolutely brilliant, and that just makes the circumstances of his departure even more kind of shocking. Considering that he didn't even have, you know, the dignity almost to give, you know, exceptional young players like Kieran Tierney and Cal McGregor, etc. He didn't even have like the dignity to give them a proper goodbye. Not even the club captain Scott Brown, and that in a way that kind of showed for me that maybe his sort of nice guy persona was maybe a bit of a mask to a certain extent.
It could have been.
Maybe it wasn't. Obviously, he used to give it the big one about, I adore Celtic and I'll be here until the end of my contract and things like that. But I think that may have been a bit of a smokescreen at times.
Yeah, I do remember the big thing that he did is when he came to college, he was going to also salute people like the Green Brigade. When he held up when they were singing the Brendan Rodgers "Here for 10 in a Row" song, he very cheekily held up 10 fingers and then was asked about it at a press conference afterwards and just diffused the situation completely. So I feel like all the editors were sitting there waiting for the headline, and Rodgers just completely killed it.
Yeah, I think.
Well, it's appeasing to all the Celtic fans.
Yeah, I think definitely that there was journalists out there that would want to hear Rodgers saying, "We are going to win 10 in a row with me," but he thought he was too reserved for that. He maybe thought, yeah, well, I'm not going to put a guarantee like that out right now, because I think he knew how sort of risky that could be, because he knew how quickly things could change.
Yeah, but even when he signed his 4-year contract, was that the start of his second season, if I remember years back correctly?
Yeah,
He signed a 4-year contract.
Yeah, it was in the summer,
Yeah, because he maybe had his 12-month rolling contract and then he signed his 4-year, which was the first time I can remember. I don't think even Martin O'Neill had a full-time contract.
Yeah, a lot of time,
rolling contract.
It was always rolling contracts with Celtic managers, and it still is to this day. I'm pretty sure Neil Lennon right now is on a rolling contract.
I think Lennon's managed to actually get a couple of year deals.
Has he?
That shows how sort of shrewd people like Peter Lawwell are and Dermot O'Desmond who are in control at Celtic. But I think that showed more than anything else that they bought into this idea of the Rodgers revolution. Yeah. I think they maybe got caught up in the hype themselves and thinking, oh, we're going to win 10 in a row with this guy. And obviously they got their fingers burnt fairly majorly by him.
Well, admittedly, it's never been confirmed rumours. The idea that Dermot Desmond paid Rodgers, like, Rodgers was on a big contract and he came in, I think he was on like £3 or £4 million a year.
Yeah.
But apparently Dermot Desmond paid that out of his own pocket. Like, he supplemented the club funds out of his own personal funds for that.
Well, he's a very wealthy man and a massive Celtic fan, so I wouldn't be surprised if
because again, there's all the big stories about the fact that he went out and basically demanded a quote-unquote big manager after the way the Rangers directors were acting at the semi-final of the 2-2 game. Again, they're all unsubstantiated claims.
You can't really prove any of this, but I think there was a feeling amongst the Celtic board that, like, right, it's all or nothing. We need to really go for it here. And I think I think returning to the sort of central theme about Rodgers' legacy, he gave Celtic some absolutely wonderful times, and I think that does get sort of papered over occasionally, because there's a lot of Celtic fans that I know that say, oh well, it's just as good under Neil Lennon, but I think because Celtic obviously a great club with a great history, and they've won countless trophies, but they've never tasted success like that in many of their fans'
no, definitely not.
Like on a scale of that, and I think because Brendan Rodgers brought it to them for the first time, he showed them, look, this is how good we can be. Mm-hmm. You know, I think people forget how good he made the fans feel at the time.
Things that always get to me is like, managers leave teams all the time. Managers are never going to be at football clubs for their full managerial career. Well, sometimes they are, but Rodgers was never going to be. He was always going to leave. But the way he left was obviously, it left a sour taste.
If he'd stayed until the end of that season and gone in the summer,
most definitely.
The general consensus is nobody would have blamed him. But the offer of Leicester was on the table, And he says, "Oh, I had to take it then," but I'm not really sure I buy that. To be fair, I think he saw the writing on the wall with Celtic, and he thought, right, I need that, and maybe it's time for me to leave.
Yeah, just to have a little think, as David said, kind of not to why he's leaving. I think you have to look at the summer of the end of Rodgers' second season into his third season as to why things started to fall apart a little bit, especially regarding transfers. Just having a little look at some of the transfers just made both kind of in the summer and January. So French Eddie Odson-Edward was made a permanent deal from PSG. Yeah, what also was slightly cancelled out with the whole Moussa Dembele saga, the fact that he left for Lyon on deadline day. So that was kind of cancelled out. And then the only other kind of main permanent signings was Malumbu came in with free transfer later on in the window.
Made sense at the time.
Yeah,
Malumbu coming in.
Yeah, but I'm just like, look at the bigger signings on transfer market that came in that season was Ezagiri came back from, I think it was Qatar or Dubai. Benkovic was on a loan, and Scott Bain came like kind of odd three-way swap deal.
Yeah.
It was a sort of weird transfer window. I think, especially the transfer of Izagiri, for me, that never really made sense because Rodgers had gotten rid of him a couple of years ago, and really,
Rodgers came out and said he was too old to play, and then maybe a year to 18 months back, he's back playing quite often.
I think obviously we need to talk about the Moussa Dembele saga and how that really did leave a bitter taste in the mouth because everyone at the time when Moussa Dembele left, everyone was, oh, he's greedy, he doesn't want to stay out his contract, this and that.
He became public enemy number one.
He really did. Yeah. He was the target because he was the poster boy for all the Celtic fans. Like he was. Celtic fans loved his attitude about how sort of arrogant he was and how he wasn't fazed by any of these big games, and he really was a bit of an icon amongst the Parkhead support. But then for it to end like that, and then Rodgers again using his classic tactics of spin and his charisma. Sort of turned it round to say, well, maybe it wasn't like that. Maybe he left because he wanted to leave, not because he got bought out or anything. But I think it's since been proven, and Moussa Dembele's reputation amongst the Celtic fans since Rodgers left has improved greatly.
Yeah, I think if you take it all the way back to last August, when all of it came out, all the public knowledge was Dembele. Everyone saw the picture of Dembele in training, standing with his arms in like a huff position. Everyone
can be spun so many ways, though.
His attitude stinks. And remember, Rodgers came out and basically said that Dembele was forcing the deal, rather than like. And then you see nowadays, apart there's a lot of broken promises. Rodgers had tried to ship Dembele off to, I think it was Brighton, and Dembele was like, "I'm too good to go to Brighton," and Rodgers was effectively trying to like push him to go to Brighton.
I remember the Brighton
promises made.
Yeah, because Brighton were just coming up to the Premiership, and I think they were offering something like £20 million.
Yeah,
that is huge money for Celtic. But I think Dembele values his career too much. He's not one of these players who's just going to go and chase the money somewhere. He went to a club like Lyon. Eventually, when he did move, Lyon, a great French
Champions League team.
Yeah, with a proven track record for developing young players like him.
And you now see Dembele this summer being linked with moves to like Juventus and Manchester United. Would he have got that if he'd went to Brighton and played in a very defensive Chris Hughton side?
I highly doubt it. So. And you look at the players that Lyon that have came out of Lyon's production line, like Karim Benzema is obviously the prime example. He played his early career at Lyon and then went to Real Madrid. So it just shows that they do have a proven track
if you look
at
the players, he's going to link up with Memphis Depay, one of the most exciting number 10/wingers in Europe right now.
Yeah,
and I just feel like, especially then with Rodgers, there's a lot of the Twitters in the nose that were spreading all these rumours about the big discontent with Peter Lawwell and Rodgers, and then Dermot Desmond having to mediate. And I feel like if you look at it, like there was no kind of joined up thinking, especially in the summer transfers, that what anything like the previous summer, where those guys like Hayes brought in, and
definitely not.
Odson Edward, Patrick Roberts.
No, there was none of those clever acquisitions that they weren't going to start every week, but they were going to be very effective for a sub player.
Edward was a great signing. But admit this is again looking back with a little bit of hindsight, but I don't know if Odsonne Edouard was ever brought in because there was a big fee of 9 million Celtic spent on him, with the intention of ever playing with Dembele, or if behind the scenes there was always a kind of acceptance that Dembele was going to be out the door at some point.
Do you think if Dembele and Edouard had stayed together and Celtic had just, I believe anyway, if those two had stayed together as a strike partnership, it would have been game over basically. Like there would have been no sort of coming back for any of the other clubs, because those two, if they managed to hit form at the same time, Celtic would have on their hands two of the finest young striking talents in Europe, and I think Rodgers would have stayed if those two had stayed together and had formed an effective duo.
It does beg the question very slightly if there was an acceptance about Dembele leading, because quite a lot of pre-season it was Celtic playing that kind of weird 3-5-2 that now Neil Lennon has made the main formation, with Odsonne Edouard and Dembele playing a lot up front together in pre-season games.
And I don't know
if that they were. I don't know if that was Rodgers trying to. Again, this is complete speculation. Rodgers trying to show that he was adamant Dembele was going to stay, whereas others wanted him to try and leave, or if that was Rodgers basically trying to just put him in the short market, was trying to bed Odsonne Edouard in.
I was slightly worried about it, because I remember for the full summer Celtic were chasing John McGinn from Hibs.
Yes.
And it was always looked like they were going to get him. It was just a matter of agreeing the fee.
Yeah, it was when, not if, John McGinn was going to sign for Celtic.
And then obviously
that was the summer of missed opportunities for me, because see if Celtic, if they hadn't just lowballed so much, because they kept almost insulting Hibs with these very low bids, and Hibs were like that. Listen, we're not just going to roll over because you're one of the big boys and let you take our best players off of us, like Dundee United done a couple of seasons previously, when
look how that turned out. Dundee's three of their best 4 players apart from Ryan Gold for under 3 or 4 million, and Dundee ended up going down fairly soon after that.
I think Hibs looked at that and thought, well, that's a cautionary tale, because Celtic absorbed all these players, and obviously Stuart Armstrong was a good success from Dundee United, but players like Nadir Chifchi, they just never kicked on. And maybe Hibs thought, for the benefit of John McGinn, they thought, well, we don't want him to go to Celtic and just rot on the bench. We want John Celtic certain assurances.
I feel like John McGinn wasn't a player that only Celtic were looking at, and weren't only Aston Villa. I feel like there must have been quite a few teams looking at John McGinn, especially because they knew last year of his contract, he's young, he's promising. He was in a good short market. Celtic were just playing a very risky game of, he's got 1 year left in his contract, will we just sit it out and no one will come in? And they were proven wrong. And apparently, again, this is all speculation, Celtic panicked when they found out that Aston Villa had agreed a fee, and then tried to go in. But John McGinn, I'm pretty sure he might have actually said that. He was down in Birmingham, and then he found out the Celtic were going to sign him. And he was like, but I'm already here. I'm not, if this is how long it's taking them to want me, I don't want to go there.
Which is fair enough.
I think it sort of showed maybe a bit of complacency on Celtic's part, because there's long been a sort of tradition in Scottish football that, if you are a player that's performing well at one of the smaller clubs in the division, you will inevitably go to Rangers and Celtic. I mean, you look at it. Recent examples include Jordan Jones going to Rangers, etc. And then of it that summer, even Yusuf Malumbu going from Kilmarnock to Celtic. And I think maybe they thought, oh well, that's just going to happen again, and obviously he's going to want to come to Celtic. But I mean, it just goes to show that isn't an inevitability necessarily. And obviously John McGinn went down to Villa, and even though they're struggling just now, they had a great period.
Well,
in the
John McGinn, I think he scored in the playoff final last year.
Yeah, he did.
Help him get up. So
and
him and Anwar El Ghazi, and now he's majorly in the shop window, like £50 million. Man United have been quoting that sort of figure. So,
but if you have to try and take a slight positive out of this, would be the emergence of Ryan Christie, who was in talks with partly going to Hibs as part of the John McGinn deal, which is a very kind of interesting topic, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at how sort of key Ryan Christie is to the Celtic setup now, it's sort of hard to think of him playing at Hibs.
Yeah, it's also a very interesting debate, I think, because people say, "Oh, who would you rather have, Christie or McGinn?" And I feel like it's not comparing the same thing because John McGinn is more of like a defensive midfielder, so he plays probably two sitting for Celtic, whereas Ryan Christie always plays at that number 10, in my opinion. And I don't feel like you could drop Christie in and have as much effect. He did kind of slightly play there when in Rodgers' second season when Brown was out injured for an extent. But I feel like you don't get as much as Christie if you drop him deeper. I feel like he had to be up near the strikers.
No, I know what you mean. Christie for me, like really came into his own that season, and right now he's like an almost irreplaceable player in the Celtic team. But at the end of the day, I think they could have had both. They could have had both.
Yeah, it'd be a lovely problem to have, but I feel like it is one of those things that's always talked about, one or the either, and I just don't feel like that's a sensible conversation to have.
Also, that summer as well, Celtic failed to qualify for the Champions League, going out to AK Athens.
Yeah.
It was a really disheartening defeat, that, wasn't it? Like, it was just so gut-wrenching when we lost that game.
Yeah, I just don't feel that in either leg, Celtic played anywhere near how they can. Like, they were very, very poor in the home game at Parkhead, and away from home, it was almost like a Celtic thing. Away from home in Europe, just defensive mistakes.
I also had Boyata as well. The saga with him wanting to leave and Rodgers saying refusing to play that AK Athens game.
Yeah, and then he comes back into the Celtic team on the day that's the Green Brigade display a big thing about him and scores the winner.
Yeah,
which is one of the ironies of football.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, DL Rangers that summer had a very good summer. They obviously got Gerrard in, Rodgers, former captain at Liverpool, and they seem to be doing well in pre-season. Obviously, they qualify in their own right for the Europa League.
Coming for a 4 rounds, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4 rounds.
Yeah, 4 rounds, and it was difficult. I mean, Rangers played teams like Maribor, who were Champions League group stage sort of regulars at that point. So it wasn't a sort of easy task to manage to get into the Europa League, especially with a new manager coming in.
And they obviously get to the Europa League. They must have had a bit of optimism seeing this, albeit it looked like a crisis from the outside at Celtic.
Yeah, I think Rangers they sort of, I wouldn't say smelled blood. I don't think it was that bad, but I definitely think they thought, right, well, I mean, now we've got a manager who sort of understands what it means to play, well, not play, but to manage like a big club, to be at a big club. Understands what it means. So now we're going to kick on, and they brought in a great array of players, many of which are still at the club. And I think, obviously, getting into Europe was a great confidence builder, and obviously it was disappointing for Rangers that season in their European group. But I think Celtic thought, the days of the 5-0s and the 4-1s and the ridiculous scorelines, I think those days were numbered, and Celtic felt that. They thought, even if Rangers aren't going to be winning the league straight away, they're definitely going to be competing with us. I think there was that sort of feeling.
Certainly, I mean, that season started off, to be fair, it started off, in league-wise, it started off well. Celtic had a bit of a lead over Rangers in the league. They got in the Europa League group stages. They got out of their group in the Europa League, which was a hard group. RB Leipzig, Salzburg, both really top teams, and also the old Rosenborg. It was a hard group, and they got out of it. I mean, you look how good Leipzig are now. It shows you that was a good achievement.
I do feel that looking at that group, admittedly Salzburg were the surprise package of that group, topping it with 18 points. I feel like you only had to look at Salzburg for 5 minutes for a game to realise they were an incredible team. Yeah, they were brilliant.
The Red Bull model of football club ownership is whatever people say about it, it's very effective.
Yeah,
it's very effective in both the domestic and European front, I must say.
Yeah, it was also very interesting that Salzburg are apparently the feeder club to Leipzig and beat Leipzig home and away.
Yeah,
in that group, which was
kind of what goes to show.
Yeah, especially it's just I don't feel like Celtic played particularly badly in that group, especially kind of the win over Leipzig at home.
Home and away
home
against
and away
Rosenborg.
victories against Rosenborg, and coming second in that group, eliminating RB Leipzig, who, if I remember correctly, had Ralf Rangnick as either manager or he was something overseeing Leipzig, who
I
is
think he was
regarded
the director of football or something.
the director of football. 'Cause I can't remember if he was interim manager waiting for Nagelsmann coming in, or if he was still director of football.
He was
at that
involved in
point.
some way, but yeah, it was what a greatly mad figure he is.
Yeah, and managing to beat them at Parkhead without Scott Brown, who's arguably Celtic's most influential player in the last 10 years,
Yeah, definitely.
was one of Rodgers' highlights at Celtic Park.
A first for Rodgers as well. In his last couple of months in charge was his first ever defeat to Rangers, which was an amazing achievement to go that long unbeaten against Rangers. But you felt it had to come at some point, and to be fair, it really blew over. Rangers really blew over Celtic that day.
Yeah, I do remember that was the game with Mikey Johnson starting as a false nine, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no striker.
Not very fit, and just a kind of odd lineup from Rodgers. Like, I don't really remember looking at that game at Celtic, having that Callum McGregor goal ruled out for offside. I can't remember Celtic creating much in that game.
I remember Rangers having about 8 really good chances within the first 10 minutes.
Remember Craig Gordon having one of the games of his life, which would weirdly be one of the last games he started as Celtic number 1.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even then, after that defeat to Rangers, it wasn't really thought of that they were going to come and challenge Celtic, because Celtic still, from what I remember, had a bit of a lead. And I
think
it was about 3 to 6 points. I don't think it was substantial.
I think they had a game in hand as well.
It wasn't the ridiculous sort of 30 points leads that they'd had in seasons previous. It was a lot closer. I think Rangers cut it that day to 3 points, and Celtic had a game in hand. And also Rangers form dipped after New Year, as it often does.
As it often does, yeah. But obviously Celtic go into the knockout stages of the Europa League, draw against Spanish side Valencia. Another great team, Valencia, and again, another team I didn't really expect much to do against.
Yeah, I do feel like Valencia were a very difficult tie, but just looking, Celtic in the January transfer window actually done some pretty decent business, in my opinion. So the kind of 3 signings that I outlined would be Toyan at right back, Timo Weah and Oliver Buck, who...
all those players looked good on paper.
Yeah.
They looked sensible.
Especially watching Lustig be torn apart by Ryan Kent at the New Year Old Firm, and bringing in Toyan, whose main ability was he was very pacey, seemed like a very good signing, albeit he didn't turn out to be particularly great.
No, he's the one player, he's one of those players that just didn't look interested at all.
Yeah. I also just feel like Rodgers, especially signs of Buck and Weah, almost played them in the opposite positions the way you'd expect. Buck starting as number 9 a lot, with Timo Weah starting out wide in most games from what I can remember.
I remember
when they brought in Ollie Buck, I never thought looking at him that he had the profile to be the main striker at Celtic, and I thought it was unusual that they played him in such a prominent role straight away.
I remember somebody describing him exactly what Ollie Buck was. He was like a speedboat with no driver. He was so fast, but he just didn't have much of a confidence on him.
It doesn't. He's a bit of a loose cannon, really. Undoubtedly, he has a degree of talent, because West Brom signed him for a ridiculous amount of money.
So did RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig don't tend to buy.
Yeah,
people who
RB Leipzig, as we were just discussing, have sort of the best in the business in terms of recruitment and things. So he does have a degree of pedigree, but then you look at him and you think, have you got where is your footballing sensibility? I think that was just why he was severely lacking, just the ability to read the game, basically.
Yeah, he had all the attributes to be a great footballer. He was big, he was incredibly strong, he just
fast. Couldn't put them together in a sort of coherent way. He couldn't put together a unified performance almost. All the elements of his game were just completely, separate from one another.
I do feel like it was summed up in the Old Firm at Ibrox, where he missed an open goal from about 6 yards out.
Yeah, that was a poor one. Obviously, after the going out to Valencia, not really laying a glove on them, we have that home game against Motherwell, just another home game against Motherwell. But nobody really realised at that time that would be the last time we'd see Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, I do remember
Celtic Park.
the interview he had in that game, and he was asked about the links, and with typical Rodgers style, swatted away the question without giving too much away.
Yeah, definitely. I remember after the game as well, it was somebody asked him, said, "Is the lure of the Scottish Premiership still enough for you? Because we just went out of Europe." They went,
Yeah.
"Well, we'll see." Sort of, kind of brushed around it, and then the next day, obviously, we wake up to Brendan Rodgers in Leicester, and you're like,
yeah.
"Oh no!"
It was a surreal moment almost. It was one of those moments that you just felt like, and my like obviously a similar moment for me would be when Arsene Wenger left Arsenal. It was just kind of, it was almost disbelief because you just never expected it to happen. Like, growing so used to seeing that modelless success of Brendan Rodgers at Celtic and being like the all-conquering team, and then all of a sudden it felt as though, well, that era's over now, and it was so weird. And I remember the Celtic fans saying, "Why would you want to go to a club like Leicester? Why would you?" Well, this is certain Celtic fans. I'm not saying this is everyone, but I remember them saying, "Why would you want to go to a club like Leicester? They don't have nearly the same degree of heritage as Celtic do, and they're a smaller club by all accounts." But I think obviously they were Premier League champions a few years previous, and it was, as much as Celtic fans might not like to hear it, it was probably a fairly smart move in the grander scheme of Brendan Rodgers' career, because
definitely.
Leicester have an excellent squad, and he's made it even better. You look at how much players like James Maddison and Ben Chilwell have kicked on, and Hamza Choudhury have kicked on under Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, and it just goes to show that maybe he did need to go down to England and prove himself there if he was going to get one of the real top jobs.
Yeah, I do think, to build on what David was saying there, I feel like because a lot of people in England have a kind of view of Scotland as, it's Celtic or Rangers, they just win everything without trying. So I feel like since he left Liverpool, he had to come to Celtic. And I think Rodgers could have been here for 10 years, win 10 trebles in a row, and no one would touch him until he goes back down to England and proves himself outside the so-called top six. I know Leicester are now third, but at the typical top six, he'd have to go to a team below that, prove himself excellent there before he'd get offered a top six job again.
Yeah, and there was no better team for that than Leicester. Leicester are the absolute blueprint for that, champions a few seasons previous, and they play in blue, exactly. So if he's wanting to put himself in the window for one of the real top jobs, I really didn't see any better club than Leicester to go to, because they are a club on the up, definitely.
Yeah, they're a club with wealthy owners who are willing to put money in and have a pretty talented, from the vast majority young squad, apart from maybe like Jamie Vardy, the centre halves aren't that young, but most of the squad is fairly young.
Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, there was a bit of ugly scenes at the Hearts game midweek after Rodgers left, with the banner going up saying "Never a sell, always a fraud." Mm-hmm. I didn't agree with it. I mean, I was angry at the time as well, but the guy did do a lot for Celtic. Admittedly, the way he left it felt cheap. It felt like he didn't do himself justice leaving that way, but I didn't think that was necessary.
I feel it was the timing. Well, I do kind of agree with the banner to an extent, because the timing that he left was arguably it's in the week where there'll be two of the hardest games of the season. So a midweek trip to Tynecastle, which I don't think anyone enjoys, and then a Scottish Cup trip to Hibs, which I don't think Rodgers actually won. I
don't think he ever won at Easter Road.
At Hibs.
No, that was always the stumbling block for him. Hibs.
So he left in a week where it was back-to-back two of possibly the hardest games of the season, and he just disappeared, trying to take most of the backroom staff with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it was only John Kennedy was left, and Damien Duff was promoted from the youth academy.
I think even though we've just discussed how leaving Celtic was, as much as it's a hard pill to swallow, a good move for Brendan Rodgers' career, the way that he left, he really did not cover himself in glory at all.
No.
And I think in a certain sort of sense, it was a bit of a disgrace, actually, what he did. the way obviously Kolo Touré went with him, but Kolo Touré didn't. Kolo Touré didn't have any ties to Celtic necessarily. It wasn't like a boyhood club for him, so you can't really blame him for that. But the way that Rodgers almost tried to leave Celtic potless in a regard, tried to pull the rug from underneath them by taking all the background staff as well. It was
the biggest fear as well was the best players. The best players that summer would go to Leicester.
Yeah,
that didn't happen.
I remember there being a sort of a train of thought that maybe there's going to be an absolute exodus from Celtic and they're all going to run down to Leicester. But I think because that Celtic team have achieved so much together, and because they're such, by all accounts, a tight unit, they're not just going to abandon ship. Really, they're not just going to leave Celtic at the drop of a hat. I think when you come to a special club like Celtic or Rangers, you form an emotional attachment to it almost, and it's hard to leave. But obviously, money talks, and that's why Rodgers left.
Obviously, Neil Lennon comes in. That's probably an episode for another day on Neil Lennon, because there's quite a lot to talk about with him. Yeah. Just to cap things off on Brendan Rodgers, he was one of the best managers, let's be fair, in Celtic history.
Yeah.
What he achieved for the club was unbelievable.
Yeah, to be fair, just on the kind of train of thought you're going for, I had a little look, and this was all these stats are up to when Rodgers left. So he had the fourth highest win percentage of any Celtic manager ever, it was 69.82%, only behind, this was up before Neil Lennon started his second reign. Lennon was third in 70%, Jock Stein had 70.06%, and Martin O'Neill was 75.53%.
Yeah, so it's good company then.
Yeah, so he's the fourth most successful manager just on win percentage ratio in Celtic history.
Certainly, if he had left at the end of the season, my personal belief is he'd be in the same sort of conversation as Martin O'Neill.
But I feel like if he left at the end of the season,
he may even surpass
the small minority that will just hate him for leaving, regardless of when he left. I feel like most Celtic fans, if he delivered a third treble and then went down to Leicester, everyone would be like, we always knew that's what he was here for. He was here for a short time to try and get us back into England. And I feel like most fans have wished him well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I certainly would have wished him well.
It just goes to show, like the point I made at the very start, what a difference. Obviously, I think he left in February. Season ends in May. So, 3 months, if he'd even just stayed for 3 more months, how much different his legacy could be, and maybe we wouldn't even be having this conversation today. Maybe we
probably wouldn't. We probably wouldn't need to.
We wouldn't need to. We would just say, yeah, it was great for Celtic, and we wouldn't need to have to examine all the unpleasantness that's came out afterwards. But I don't know. How would you say the mood of the fans is? Would you say there's more Celtic fans that consider him a good sort of, to consider his legacy as a positive thing, or more fans consider his legacy a negative thing?
I would say it's very split. It's also, I feel like he is to an extent helped by how well Neil Lennon has come in and done.
Yeah.
Because Neil Lennon came in, obviously delivered the last 2 trophies and was on par for possibly a full treble this season. If Neil Lennon came in, or any other manager came in, and Celtic had lost the cup tie, lost the league somehow, and had a poor this season, I think Rodgers would be more vilified because he left him in the lurch, and then Celtic just went off the tracks.
Yeah, I think it shows how good foundations he left at Celtic, that Neil Lennon was able to just come in, pick up from where he left off, and even exceed what Rodgers was doing in the last couple of months.
I think he's got Lennon to thank as well for. I think the mood in the Celtic fans has kind of softened on Rodgers now. It was very bitter for a while.
Yeah, because Lennon could have came in and said and gave it the big I am about, I'll never leave you, and I'm going to be loyal to Celtic, and he could have made himself seem like the hero in comparison to Brendan Rodgers, but I think he's a lot more humble than that. I don't think
he didn't even mention.
I don't think. Yeah, exactly, and I think that was the best way to go about it. Just to say, I'm not Brendan Rodgers. We're going to not start afresh, but we're just going to continue our work here. And he didn't make a big deal about it, and I think it's good because Celtic haven't obviously not hung up about it now, and it's almost as if people. I remember at the time there was a lot of negative feeling around Neil Lennon's appointment, and people were thinking, oh my God, he did really badly at Bolton and the way things ended at Hibs and stuff. But Neil Lennon obviously we were talking about how, being like a Rangers or a Celtic man isn't like a decisive factor, but
No.
Neil Lennon gets the club totally, and I think it was a good appointment for him to just come in and steady the ship. And initially it was only meant to be a temporary thing, but it goes to show now that what a good appointment it was at the time.
He's done his job, and I think all Celtic fans generally do love the guy for how much he's given to the club.
Yeah, obviously I seen a stat the other day, like 5 league titles as a player, 5 as a manager. Like how can you really argue with that?
No, definitely. No. Just going to round up this episode now. Rodgers' legacy is really up for debate, isn't it? That's the main thing.
Yeah, I feel like you will get people who will just hate him for life, whereas I feel like the vast majority of people are still incredibly kind of angry that he left, but if you see how well Lennon's come in and done, they've kind of slightly mellowed.
The biggest test will be if Celtic win 10 in a row, there's a party, and they bring out Ronnie Deila and they bring out Brendan Rodgers.
It's really odd because Deila left off the back of failure and is really well liked by all Celtic managers. Celtic fans, whereas Rodgers got so much success and then left and is vilified, which are really odd things, but they both left in quite drastically different circumstances.
I think it depends on how. I don't know. Obviously, if Rodgers comes back for this big 10 in a row party, it will be very interesting to see how the Celtic fans react. But I think it would be very poor of Celtic fans to be booing Brendan Rodgers if he comes back on the day that they win the 10th title in a row, for them to be focusing on a thing that at that point happened over 2 years ago. I think it would be very poor of the Celtic fans to do that, and I don't think they will. I don't think they'll let Brendan Rodgers return into Celtic Park cloud the emotions of that day. If it happens, that is.
I think they'll give them the satisfaction of booing him as well.
Exactly, because I think he sort of, in a way, knowing how big an ego Brendan Rodgers has, I think in a way he would sort of enjoy that, to come back and get booed and then pick up a medal. I think in a way he would kind of, that would be sort of satisfying for him, almost saying, well, I'm back now and I'm getting given this award or whatever, and fuck you.
Yeah, I am back getting celebrated, and regardless of how you feel about me, I am etched in history. So.
Yeah, it's almost as if he has immunity, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That's obviously very hypothetical talking about that.
Yeah.
Yes, no one even knows when the football season's going to restart.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So. We just make silly videos on the internet. What do we know?
Dreaming up this imaginary scenario.
Yeah, who knows? The fans will be in the stadium next May.
Exactly.
I know.
Well, thanks very much, Dolan, for joining us on today's episode.
Thank you, Dolan.
Thanks for having us.
No bother.
Me and DL will be back with another episode very soon. If you have liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, me and DL will be back soon. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.